Yo, Dave Lockman from Odd Shopper back with you guys for the first time. Monday Night Football edition, best bets. I got 3 of them for you, and I got a bonus pick. I'll give you my score prediction at the end as well. But I'll give you a side on this game. There's something I really like, and we'll have some fun with this one. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. And before we get started, we got something special going on over at Odd Shopper right now. Would love to have you guys be a part of it because the first week's entirely free. The Odd Shopper Premium Insider Access. It is where you're going to get all of our bets, all of our early bets, right? All of the bets that don't make it onto YouTube, all of that great stuff, all in one Discord channel. Now, I'll have a private channel, but there's also going to be a channel where everyone, all of our analysts from all sports are dropping their picks in every day. And if you jump in now, your first week is entirely free. No strings attached. First week's entirely free. Stokastic.com/Laffy. Just use the link in the description or the pinned comment. Both of them are there. Everything's free for the first week. We'll get all of our picks. We'll build a little community up there as well. We got private channels, but we got the public channel as well where everyone can hang out and we'll have a blast. We'll win some money. Love to hear what you guys have to do as well as far as where your picks are every single day for the NFL season. Let's make it happen. First up, let's just get this one straight out of the way. Broncos -6.5 points on the road against the Seattle Seahawks. Now, 6.5 points is a lot for road teams. And we've seen some wild stuff happen this week, right? Texans tie the Colts. Crazy game. I had a feeling that defense was going to look better, and they certainly did. We didn't get everything right, but that was one of them. The Saints got the win, but on the road did not cover that. There were some serious upsets that we saw with road favorites. I don't see that being the case on Monday Night Football. Geno Smith is so much worse than Russell Wilson. And he has a 34-36 career touchdown to interception ratio. Their offensive line is not good. Really, the biggest assets on these teams are going to be DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. But that doesn't help you when Geno Smith is struggling to get you the ball and his line can't protect him. And in the secondary, you have Jamal Adams, very solid player. But that secondary has so many question marks that it wouldn't shock me that they finish in the bottom third of the league this year. So I look at this and I see a much better team on both sides of the football. You know, you look at the pass rush for the Broncos. You look at their secondary. It's going to be tough for Geno Smith to move the football downfield. And then on the Broncos offense, Russell Wilson, forget about, I've said this earlier in the week, that the narrative thing, that doesn't mean anything to me. Yeah, he wants to win this game. He wants to win every game. Who knows? Maybe nerves will get to him and he'll struggle and you'll go, oh, I thought he wanted to win this game. But yeah, the 12th man. None of that matters. Just look at this on paper as a far better team. Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, catching passes from Russell Wilson. One of the best deep ball throwers in the league when he's healthy. You've got Javonte Williams and you have Melvin Gordon in the backfield. And they're way better in the trenches. This does seem like a game where the Broncos could come in, maybe lower scoring. Wouldn't be surprised if it goes under, but I think they get this win. Wouldn't be surprised if it's by double digits. So lay in the 6.5 on the road with the Broncos as Wilson makes his return to Seattle, baby. Rashad Penny over 6.5 receiving yards, -125. This one, I think it's going to move, honestly. And this plays into the fact that they're probably playing from behind, number one. Number two, you have Ken Walker, who is still questionable, but beat reporters are considering him doubtful. And I don't know how he wouldn't be. He hasn't been practicing. The guy hasn't been on the practice field, still recovering from this hernia from several weeks back. So that leaves you with guys like DJ Dallas and Travis Homer. You have to look at Rashad Penny and know that, number one, when he's healthy, he's a very, very explosive running back. Yeah, the offensive line is going to struggle, but do we not envision at least a couple dump-off opportunities for Rashad Penny, even if he's not out there on third down on every single drive? To me, 6.5 receiving yards seems like something we can easily clear in this game. Also wouldn't be shocked if he clears that by a considerable amount. So if you're a same-game parlay person and you like to, work things up the ladder like that, then I understand that as well. But over 6.5 receiving yards for Rashad Penny, assuming, and I don't think he's going to play, assuming that Ken Walker, who was brought in as a quality pass catching back, but not a good pass blocker, which is also a thing, is not going to play. Hey, if you guys are looking to make some free money, doing absolutely nothing outside of moving your fingers for a minute, well, these opportunities are about to disappear because the football season is underway already. And most of these sports books are going to go, all right, we ran it for a month. That's enough. We're giving out too much. DraftKings right now, you deposit $5. Bet any one of these games. Bet tonight's game. Put $5 in using the link in the pinned comment or in the description. $5 deposit. Put it on any game. You're getting $200 in free bets just like that. You don't need to win. You win, you still get your payout, and you get $200. You lose, you still get your $200. FanDuel basically doing the same thing. Sign up at FanDuel if you haven't signed up yet. You're a new user. Link in this comment, pinned comment in the description. $5. Bet it on tonight's game when you sign up.
Still got Lofty. 10 more seconds.
Long Lofty video. What was he talking about? I wonder.
He was just, well, look, I mean, that was probably like a breeze. Lofty's like, you want, that's it? my favorite part is we do this live show. It's Ben, Lofty and me, and it was last year was the same thing whenever we had this season-long fantasy football show where he knows, because he's a host, so he knows damn well that we have to keep things moving. And he's like, oh, real quick. And it's never real quick. It's real, but it's long.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, real quick. I know we got to get going. That's his staple. Then I know, like, okay, prepare for.
And you're like, cut this out, cut.
But I love it because, like, he can't be, like, he has to get, and as somebody who talks too, I love it. But it's hilarious because, sorry, Mike. Yes, welcome in Monday Night Football, the first of many Monday Night Football games. We are excited, myself, Geoff, Mike, all of us here, the three of us on the entire Stokastic channel to bring you Monday Night Football's NHA strategy show. And we're going to make some money. That's the idea here, to get you ready for these contests. And the first, again, inaugural Monday Night Football game of any season always feels a little special. You have the added drama, Geoff, with Russ revenge, maybe even Noah Fant revenge. Like, there's multiple revenge angles here, and just the game itself, knowing that Seattle might be a little quarterback challenged versus what the expectations are with Denver. But the beauty of it is that we have Stokastic projections, we have your brain, and together the two of them are going to make some money.
Yeah, hopefully one will fend off the other, you know, and I'm speaking about the projections will fend off my brain from getting too wild here. But I am looking forward to this game. I think there's a lot of, like a lot of outcomes in this game. I mean, obviously people are expecting big things out of Denver, but it's a new offense, it's a new head coach. And I mean, look, I think long-term, like Russell Wilson's really going to make this thing pretty cool in Denver. And I think he's going to bring out the best in guys like Sutton, but who knows? It's week one, man. Like, look, I mean, like Packers sucked yesterday. I mean, lots of teams like that who we thought might be good. Who knows what's going on in Indy? But yeah, I have expectations, but I'm keeping them, realistic here because it's week one NFL, and they're going to Seattle where Pete Carroll is going to try to make this game as ugly as possible. So.
Great point about Carroll trying to make it ugly as possible. And I think for people, they can fill in the variable. If you disagree with Geoff as far as ugly as possible, you cannot disagree with the notion of it's Pete Carroll trying to do as best as he can, Hall of Fame level of controlling a game. So just to wrap the point that you made, man, I think for me, this is not week 2. This is not week 8. This is not week 15, meaning Pete Carroll wasn't just handed Geno Smith nor Drew Lock. This is a off season in which Russell Wilson at the very least ain't coming back. So I'll let the majority of the public, I'll let the popular discussion center around, well, Geno Smith and Drew Lock and all that. I'm focused, Geoff, to your point, on a Hall of Fame coach who has had an entire offseason to figure out how to get around that, as opposed to just focusing on who's there. And look, you mentioned it, ugly as possible, could be a defensive game. He knows Russell Wilson probably better than anybody but Ciara, right? So there's something there.
Maybe even better. Yeah. So no, absolutely. Like, even just talking the total, like just quickly, I know
Sure.
on No House Advantage, we're going to be focusing on props and stuff. And
but a lot of that factors into how you see the game.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah. And how we're kind of looking at this game. I mean, 43.5, I think that's propped up a little bit by Wilson's name.
Yep.
Just being on the scoreboard. So, I'm looking at this as like a potential under scenario as well. And that's going to feed into our props. What is Pete Carroll going to be looking to do? Is he going to looking to drop back Geno Smith 40 times? As you mentioned, that's not in the game plan for Seattle this year. So, right off the bat, like you look at No House Advantage. One thing that I think you should be obviously eyeing is like the receiver props here. They're higher than the sports books. They're big, like DK Metcalf, 63.5, Lockett, 58.5. I mean, it's people trend towards the overs here. And even with these higher props, I don't know if you'll be getting people like a huge unders on it. People just don't like to take the unders. These are smash unders for me. I probably even if I was going to choose one, I'd probably Metcalf. He didn't go over 60 yards in each of his last 6 games last year. I'm just like I like DK Metcalf. He's athletic freak, but he's going to be hit or miss in this offense, at least in my opinion this year.
Yep.
So that's kind of where I'm starting. Obviously we're talking about No House Advantage in their pick'em contest. You can mix and match. You can make some contrarian lineups. Maybe you put some overs on Seattle. You make a big over lineup, but in general, those receiver spots for Seattle, I'd be looking under on the yardage totals.
And our projections on Stokastic are free for you, so you can see them. Yep. You can follow along with us. And as Geoff mentioned, everything here from top overs to unders that you can play in contests. We also have the optimal lineup if you really just want to plug and play truly. But I think you're onto something here, especially with the variance we see in a guy in Metcalf. I think you can make an easier argument for volume with a guy like Tyler Lockett than you can with Metcalf. And there is going to be the most variance, I think, with Metcalf would be his yards, not even reception. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's look at this, right? You've got Tyler Lockett at 58.5. You've got Cortland Sutton at 68.5. You've got Metcalf at 63.5. I think those are the 3 guys to immediately target. And you're right. As far as Metcalf would be the best one, I'll tell you on that as far as the confidence on that. But I also really like going under Sutton and Lockett in that set. Now, Lockett's a little tighter. I get it, but he's not going to have that big play like Metcalf can.
Yeah. I mean, he's capable of it, but
he is. I'm just saying tonight, I just meant tonight. Yeah. That's all.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, he's capable.
Of course. I mean, pretty much any starting receiver in the NFL is capable of going for a big play, but I agree. It's, And the one that gets me on No House is Sutton, because I'm actually pretty bullish on him for this game, because I think I like the matchup on the outside. The Seahawks have a pretty athletic corner there. I'm going to butcher his name. I think it's Tariq Woolen. God, that could be completely wrong. But anyways,
yep.
He's setting up good, but they're not even going to play him against Sutton. It looks like they're going to be putting Sidney Jones, maybe even Justin Coleman, who they took off the waiver wire. It's a mismatch, but 68.5, again, this is 10 yards bigger than you're getting on books. It's not a total I'm rushing out to go play overs on. So, I might even I'd almost rather play a Sutton football or touchdown prop than I would I think go over on that yardage total. I think there's a lot of scenarios where Javonte Williams takes over this game early anyways. The Broncos, again, we don't know anything. This is the new head coach. The Broncos could just work their running backs in the passing game more. And Sutton ends up with 4 targets in this game. It could go the other way too, but with Carroll just trying to kill clock and stuff, that's a big total, and it's not one I'd be looking to play over on.
Let's look at the 2 ones that jump right there at the top. One that really pops more so than anything by a mile from the quarterbacks. We'll remind you here, if you're hanging, not just hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the Stokastic, the Odd Shop. I mean, we've got 6 different channels you want to be a part of here, all different from best ball season long through the Odd Shopper and here at the mothership, if you will, at Stokastic. But also take advantage of this, because I know a lot of people just pop in. Oh man, what's going on here? No House Advantage. What is that? They see the video, they see the projections that we have, understand how easy it is to make money. Well, why don't you just get a leap right there, get a jump start with your first deposit up to $25. We'll match that with the code Stokastic. So not only are we giving you winning projections here, we're also giving you a head start. That's what I was thinking. Leap. I don't know why I said that, Geoff, but it was head start I was thinking of. We'll build and match a bankroll there for you. The one right at the top that we have that is just buzzing on our Stokastic projections here is over a half interception. He's projected at 0.97, he being Geno Smith. And this one really like stands out, I think, more so than anything else, maybe even a couple combined more so than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few on Geno Smith, and like you could like create a lineup basically around Geno Smith. Like you could get, I mean, the thing about no loss advantage is, again, like it's not just a prop betting site. Like there is DFS strategy involved here, right? So like if I was, I mean, again, like there's overlay on this site, guys. Like no loss advantage has been overlay in all their big contests. Again, like I definitely check it out if you haven't. Obviously, we're going to talk props on this show too, but like, you know, again, like building a lineup on no loss advantage around Geno Smith is something you could definitely do. You go over on interception, but like Geno Smith's line there is 1.5 passing touchdowns. Like, are you kidding me? I mean, you want Geno Smith to throw 2 passing touchdowns in a game where they're like 6.5 underdogs?
Great point.
Oh my God. Like I love the under there. That's probably my favorite Geno Smith, but even passing yards, we've got like a juiced up total here, 218. That's way bigger than on the books too. You could play all 3 of those. You know, if you wanted, like you can just build props around Geno Smith tonight. And again, like you can get contrarian. You could make a Geno Smith lineup where you're going over on some of these too. But in general, like I would be using the unders on Smith as kind of like my core play, right? I mean, you know, you mentioned that the interception, we have him pegged for basically like a single interception, which is a massive over considering we're getting a 0.5 line, obviously. And then, but like the passing touchdowns, I mean, again, like, wow. I mean, I love that. That's I'm not going to go say free square, but that's like the one I would be starting off with is under 1.5 passing touchdowns.
Yeah, really. You mentioned that though, like you can go 10 through 7, something like that to really build a confidence entry around Geno Smith. And it adds up. And again, I think narratives, and as far as like not the total negative connotation, I mean, like when you're building plays like this and you're building correlating plays like this, you've created something, Geoff, that I think is just so hard to disagree with from the opposite, from a logical standpoint, meaning it's hard to see a scenario against this Broncos defense where Geno Smith throws for 270 and 3. It's just like, you know, take the extreme out, right? Yeah. And then you start to move it back a little bit and say, all right, well, it's not 270 and 3. Is it 240 and 2? And you think, no, I mean, almost as emphatic as it is the extreme example. So I think starting at that extreme, scaling it back, you really get to the point right now where you mentioned his numbers. I mean, 218.5 passing yards for that line on NAJ, and even like 220 and 2 sounds ambitious in a game plan.
Yeah. And again, like, you know, you can obviously, like it's a DFS thing, you multi-entry. So
yeah.
I would, if I had 10 entries, I would make like a Geno Smith hedge lineup where you're going against the field. Cause I think most of the field will be looking like they're not going to be huge overs on Geno Smith. That's fair. But, you know, you can also make lineups where you're like heavy, like where you're just going, not only are you fading Geno Smith, but then put in Metcalf, maybe put in Metcalf and Lockett in unders, because I don't think many people are going to be doing that necessarily. People don't like to fade like, you know, DK Metcalf. I mean, he's like the big athletic receiver guy. Everyone's, oh, well, he'll go off. He'll catch a 70-yard pass. He didn't really do that much at the end of last year with the Seahawks offense. So that's not really something, like if it happens, it happens, but I'm not going to go out there and be scared of it. So Geno Smith to me is like a guy is kind of like a focal point here. Again, really like just building around him, and then just, you know, you can hedge however you want. You don't even have to really, if you don't want to. Obviously there's always a scenario where Geno comes out and like, you know, does throw for like 250 and a couple touchdowns. But the more likely play, and the play we have projecting, is that he goes under these totals. By under, I mean passing, and then, you know, probably ends up with at least 1 pick. So, which against a very good Denver secondary, by the way, like playmakers back there, it's deep. They've got multiple corners they can shift over to Metcalf. So,
no, I agree. And, you know, that's trying to figure this out from not only just the game plan standpoint, but how it correlates to numbers here outside of, well, what about Russ, right? Like we talked about Geno and how easy that is. There are some wider gaps from line to projection that we have on site, Geoff, but I do wonder, passing yards, 261.5. I mean, that's pretty tight. as far as that's what that line is. And then
Yep.
the projection is 260. So it gets a little tighter with Russell Wilson, I think, but that doesn't mean that there may not be a play that jumps out for you either. Maybe it is something higher, even like an interception prop.
Well, and again, like, let's talk a little bit of strategy, right? Like, obviously we have Russ's total. It's projected pretty neutral. Like, we haven't projected for around 260. So like a slight lean towards the under, but again, if you're going to pair him with, like, I think a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll go under Geno Smith and they'll just be like, okay, well, I'm going to go over Russell Wilson. Well, if you just take the under on Russell Wilson too, that's going to be, that's going to differentiate yourself a little bit. So if everyone's taking the unders on Geno, go under on Russ too. There's no reason why the Broncos can't just be running the ball as well. They have Javonte Williams. That's the one player where I'm pretty set on going over on some props is Javonte Williams. And you don't necessarily have to go over on like all the rushing props. I actually like his receiving props as an over.
19 and a half.
Yeah, that's a call where our, even our site, even at 19.5 receiving yards, like we haven't pegged for like 3 yards more than that. And I like that. I think that's one you could definitely look at to play the over. And, again, like you don't even have to go strictly by the projections. Like when you're making DFS lineups, a lot of it's just by what you're constructing. Javonte Williams has a pretty neutral, rushing yards. Like his over under on no house is 61.5. We basically haven't projected for, I think, like almost exactly that. So, you take the over on Javonte, then you go under on all the passing props. Like for a 7-man lineup, I don't think many people are going to do that. So those are the kind of things I'd be looking to attack this game that way. Rather than going ultra contrarian and trying to hit the Geno Smith jackpot game or something, I think just going under on the Broncos side with the unders on the Seattle side, that could give you like a nice contrarian build.
It's a good point because you're not forcing it necessarily. I do want to look at, though, and this is going to impact Sammy. Appreciate that. Appreciate the big shout there. I do want to look at, though, from the standpoint, Geoff, of what you mentioned with those like building on the contrarian, not ultra contrarian, but I don't think you and I are pretty much on the same page here, right? Like I think I should say you and I are on the same page where under this total, Seattle is going to do enough to kind of stay in this game. If they can cover 7.5, it may be a little different than just staying in the game. But what happens with a blowout? Seattle ain't blowing Denver out. We know that. Yeah, but I think there's a strong, like I would bet that Seattle's not beating Denver by 14 points.
Unless Russ gets hurt in the first quarter or something. Right? But we're not going to play for that. I mean, that's just
right. It's not zero, but it's tight. But at the same time, like, would you be shocked if Russ put up 303 against his former team and this whole vengeance and danger Russ comes out and let Russ cook and all the other monikers and things that are on t-shirts? It wouldn't shock me. I'm not betting it that way, but I think there might be an opportunity for both Wilson and the guys he's throwing to, Geoff, to open up maybe some overs as a quasi contrarian build.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like, look, we can talk about, there's two ways to play on Noah's advantage too. Like you can make multiplier tickets as well in the versus the house contest. So I think you'd have to go like, on both sides if you're making them for a single game there. But, just in terms of their contest. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can, and in that scenario, like that's a scenario where you'd probably come back with some Seattle overs. Like obviously you're going to pair Wilson with, maybe you go Judy over, or maybe you go both as receivers over, or you go like, Russell Wilson over touchdowns and you take like Sutton or something like that in the same category. But regardless of how you go on that, I think I'd be looking to come back with some Seattle overs. So maybe that's where you take like a shot. Maybe you go over on like Noah Fant. Like you fade the receivers there, but you go with the tight end over. Noah Fant's got a massive receiving total on No House. Again, these Seattle receiving totals, they're definitely going to like lead to a lot of unders, but again, and you don't have to go over on everyone here. Like right. I don't think that like going over on multiple Seattle players, even in a blowout, is going to be like a healthy thing to do. But like going over, like bringing it back with Fant, in a build, I think that's something. If you're going to play for the Russ blowout, someone's probably going to catch like 6 garbage passes for the Seahawks. It could be Fant. Maybe it is Lockett, but Lockett and Metcalf, again, they're going to have those corners on them. Noah Fant, obviously it's a revenge game. He's a pretty athletic tight end though. And I would expect him to be some kind of force down the middle for Geno Smith at some point this year. So I think Noah Fant is actually like a really interesting one. I don't think anyone's really going to be up on taking his overs. That's probably like the Seattle player that might be like, you might even get just like the lowest percentage of people taking an over on him.
Yeah, I love it. I love the angle, from betting him anytime TD to playing him in NHA, or even running if, there's a touchdown prop for this guy. And a lot of it is to what you mentioned, which is at the very least, like Seattle recognizes that this guy, who is now an integral part of their offense, probably more so with the quarterback situation, right? Probably more so than if it were Russell Wilson and he still had the ability, healthy, to hit Metcalf and Lockett. So Fant, I think, increases his role immediately because of guys like Smith and maybe Locke, depending on what happens. With that said, though, Geoff, I love it because I think at the very least it starts to mitigate, maybe not cancel out, but mitigate what Denver is doing for Russell Wilson. So now you have two guys who are truly important to their respective offenses, where you would think the game planning, the coaching, the guys around them. And this is, you follow this league long enough to know that the NFL has something to that, this human element to that, where guys are way aware. Even Pete Carroll, you telling me that Pete Carroll doesn't want to get Noah Fant a touchdown tonight? Come on.
Right. I mean, Fant was the guy who came back for the Russell Wilson trade. I mean, I know obviously the draft picks and all that, but like the trade was essentially like Russell Wilson for Noah Fant in terms of like real life NFL players, right? Like that's the player that Seattle wanted back. So yeah, I mean, maybe, and again, like maybe you play Fant receptions. Maybe you don't want to rely on like downfield passing. That's fine. I don't even mind that. I actually probably would prefer that. And again, like we don't have Fant projected for like big totals here. Right. So this is really like kind of a narrative play, or just something that you're working into a Denver overstack, a Denver over lineup. But I think it's definitely like worthwhile to think about it like that. Again, we're creating narratives here. Is Pete Carroll potentially going to dial up a couple extra Noah Fant routes? Yeah, absolutely. I could see that. And I think that's also possible. And another player, and it's actually funny because, going down the list, like No House, obviously, and like a lot of sites, like we don't get every single player with a prop that's involved in this game. But one Seattle player that is on there is Travis Homer receiving yards.
Yes.
This is like the clear-cut number 3 back for Seattle. And I almost forgot to mention him, but he's only got 11.5 receiving yard prop. It's pretty much neutral projected for us, maybe slight under. But like, again, if you're taking Russell Wilson to just destroy and like Denver's up like 30-3 in like third quarter, Homer's going to get a lot of snaps. Like they're not going to rush out Rashad Penny for extra snaps in a blowout. So if you're playing for the Denver blowout, Travis Homer over receiving yards.
I love it. All right. So I want to do something here, and, maybe we can start doing this if this picks up and you like it. Look, if the idea sucks and you're like, dude, after the show, we can't do that anymore, then obviously we're not. But what I wanted to do is while you're going through and building and talking through game plan to narrative to execution on the field here, I wanted to combine what we have on site with what you've been saying and just hit you, because I know Mike's building as well, but I want to hit you with a lineup here. And it's basically 7 through 2 all over. So I'll just go. It doesn't have to be rapid fire, but I kind of wanted to go a little rapid fire and get like a slug, right? Like a quick reaction from you as far as where we are, because a lot of these we've talked about, and especially Travis Homer. So these are based off of, and what I'm using on site, Geoff, is I sorted on the percent difference. So what I want to do is I want to take the difference, the widest gap that Stokastic has between line and its projection. And look, there may be ones that you like. I don't like that, right? So you can love, you can hate, you can do one or the other, right? Mostly extreme, I'm sure. But we start with where we began, Geno Smith over the interception. And that's just because there's an 83.89% difference with the line and the projection that Alex has.
Yeah, and like I'd be fine playing that.
Okay.
I'd like the only thing I'd say about that is you worry a little bit that like we're only going to get like 26 Geno Smith attempts, and that's why I'd rather play the underpassing touchdowns. Like if you're giving me the difference between those two, but again, it's fine. I mean, it's Geno Smith. We got Denver. It's not like the Arizona secondary here.
Yeah, right.
So it's not my favorite Geno Smith prop, but it's definitely in play. This is not a prop I'd be like walking away from. No.
All right. So it's not a hate. It's not a love, but it's not a hate.
Right.
All right. Wilson over a half interception. And this is just the second prop with the widest width, which isn't always the indicator. I don't want people thinking like, just sort that and plug and play. I just did this for the exercise.
Yeah. I mean, this one's interesting, right? And I mean, look, again, like I generally think that like quarterback interception props are actually some of the best value you can find. Quarterbacks throw interceptions more than people realize. And like good quarterbacks do. Like there's very few Aaron Rodgers around who just like never throw interceptions. Russell Wilson has at times been that in his career, but let's remember, he's playing a head coach very familiar with him. The Seahawks have a pretty good secondary, especially their safeties and stuff like that. Well, Jamal Williams isn't the greatest at getting interceptions, but I still think this is a spot where like, I'm not out there confident being like, yeah, Russ is just, again, I think there's a wide range of outcomes. Even in like good game, Russell Wilson can throw an interception on the first drive and then come back and like throw 3 more touchdowns. I think over here is where I would lean.
Over.
I go with the projections, basically.
Okay, cool. 5 is Javonte Williams over his 2.5 receptions.
Right. And yeah, okay. I probably, again, this is like the Geno Smith one. Yeah. I'm going to go with the projections. I'm going to say yes, but I would rather play Javonte Williams receiving yards. I just think that the screen game for Denver is going to be there. I think it's going to be better than it was last year with Russell Wilson. I think, again, teams aren't just going to be able to fall down on top of the box. Because like, yeah, good luck, Drew Lock, throwing it back there. Sure, pal. We're just going to like gang up on Javonte. I think they're going to have to defend. I think it's going to open up more room, but yeah, we'll play Javonte in the receiving props. That's the one that I really like going over on in terms of like offensive players.
Yeah. And I just wanted to jump in real quick because Mike is, and this is, being a good producer, he took out mine and replaced it with yours, and rightfully so. So you have that power on this lineup to say, no. Now let's get back to Travis Homer. And in this case, we're going over 14.5 rushing yards.
Rushing yards. That's interesting because I mean, like, I do think Homer's going to be the second back on. I mean, I definitely, and like, again, we do have him projected as like a pretty solid over at 14.5. It's a low total. I personally, I'm going to go against like the projections here. And I'm going to say like, you should just take him on the receiving yards. I think that there's enough scenarios too, where, Homer just gets a few more snaps. Either it's like before the half or it's like, late in the game because this is a blowout where, I just feel better about it. But I could definitely see Travis Homer. I could see Travis Homer honestly getting like 30% of the snaps here. So like, he's not a player I'm looking to go under on in either category. I think his props are actually a little too low. He's the second back in. They don't use, I mean, at least last year, like Penny was just like, he was almost a nothing in the pass game, which means Homer's going to be on the field more than people realize. So I'm over on both of these, quite frankly, for him. I think his props he's one of the players. And because like a lot of the props in this game are higher than the book. And that's why I think we're talking so much about unders, but Homer's the one player his props are kind of sitting there. I'm like, these are actually maybe too low. So.
All right. We'll work real quick here, these last 3 and get any last words from you out of here, Geoff, before we bail. But I know you're not going to like this. And I just went through the scroll here, over 62.5 receiving yards for Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah. I mean, interesting. I know I saw this one pop up. Jeudy could just be the guy here. I mean, in terms of just like the guy who gets worked more, like I think Sutton's going to be the big play receiver, but Jeudy could see a lot of work. And, it's like, we're not bullish on the passing totals, but like, who else is Russell Wilson going to work the ball to? I mean, I think that Jeudy is most likely to see the most targets in this game. He's probably going to get, like the most looks, and maybe it's not all, 30-yard passes downfield. But I'm pretty bullish on Jerry Jeudy in this game. Like, I don't really have a reason to go out and say, like, you should be fading him. So if the projections say over, I'm just going to trust it on this one.
All right, last one here. I know we have 2 left, but we'll just give Geoff the wishbone, and he can split it accordingly. Melvin Gordon, and this is your choice here. Melvin Gordon over 42.5 rushing yards, or Rashad Penny under 71.5 rushing yards. I think it would be the latter, right?
Yeah,
although you do have Javonte to kind of, I don't know. I defer to you.
I'm not like, I don't have a huge lean on any one of those. Penny is a guy who, I mean, looked good towards the end of last year, but it's a big total. Denver's going to be ready for it. I just feel like I'm actually going to go with Gordon. I'd say Gordon in that scenario. Yeah.
Not terrible. I like it. And look, Mikey had as the 2-point play anyway. All right, my friend, at the Fantasy Grind, of course, how you follow Geoff on Twitter at Shander Show. Thanks to Mike Awesome Yo or Stokastic Yo, is it now, Mike? Has the name changed? Okay. Oh, Yo-castic. Sorry. I want to make sure I get it right there. Right. Yeah, exactly. You can't lose the yo. Anything else, Geoff? Any other player? Anything else on our way out that you want to? Your final word, as always, my friend.
No, I think Javonte Williams is going to have a big game. I think that's like the player I would be most comfortable going over on. But like, yeah, I wouldn't get too crazy in this game. I think you're going to see. Not as ugly as the game last night, but some good plays. But it's Seattle, so I don't know.
Yeah, look, Seattle's already cooked at the quarterback spot. Dallas now has to deal with that. I couldn't help it. I had to get it out there. All right. Always a pleasure, my friend. We're back later in the week, right? Thursday Night Football.
Absolutely, man. I haven't even looked ahead. I don't even know who's playing Thursday.
Rams, Chiefs.
Out of it.
Right?
Rams, Chiefs?
I think so.
Seriously?
So.
All right. Well, that's a pretty good game.
I thought so. Maybe I'm wrong. It's all right. Who cares? We'll figure it out.
We'll see you Thursday.
If I got it wrong, then who cares? If I got it right, we'll see you Thursday. See ya.